أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد الحمد لله. Respected brothers and sisters, inshallah today we continue with where we had left off last week in our recital of the disease and the cure, ad-da'u wad-dawa, by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahmatullahi alayhi. In today's chapter and the 2-3 chapters to come, after having discussed the effects of sins and how they harm us in so many different ways, the effects of the sins, from the effects is this, from the effects is that, from the effects is this. He mentioned so many effects of sins. And in the midst also he mentioned some of the benefits and rewards of steadfastness and commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After this chapter now, he brings some short chapters in which he speaks about how the shaitan affects us through our different organs, different parts of our bodies. How shaitan affects us through our eyes, our ears, our tongue, and so on. Because from the most important steps of remedying the disease is to know the disease. And one of the most important steps of securing the avenue is knowing how the avenue is vulnerable, knowing the weaknesses of the tongue, knowing the weaknesses of the eyes and the ears. Without acknowledging and recognizing the weaknesses of these organs, we cannot repair, remedy, or cure them. But it starts with the soul itself. And so he titles it the king of disbelief or unbelief. The king of unbelief has approached with his soldiers an entire camp. But he has found the heart behind a fortress, seated on the throne of his kingdom. The heart is giving an imagery. When the Hizb al-Shaytan, when the Shaytan and his armies try to come and influence us and misguide us, okay? Then the only way to protect our souls, protect our minds, protect our iman, is to ensure that we are protected behind a fortress of iman, of istighfar, of tawbah, of precaution, of muhasabah, self-reckoning and calculation and so on. The heart is behind the fortress, seated on the throne of his kingdom. His command passes through his allies and his troops. Surround him and fight to defend him and his quarters. The heart is giving the imagery, is like the king sitting in the throne. And all of the rest of the organs, the eyes, the ears, the feet, the hands, the tongue, they are not trying to harm the heart, rather they're trying to defend it. They are like allies to the heart. When the heart commands, they obey, not the other way around. The heart is not affected adversely, negatively, is not subdued by his desires or senses. Rather, he controls, the heart controls the senses. The heart is in charge of its kingdom, of its body, of its allies, of his troops. So the enemy could not proceed unless they penetrate through his entourage and his soldiers. Amazing imagery. The heart is protected, and it is as such how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected our hearts behind the rib cage, behind the muscles, behind the chest, behind the shoulders. How Allah has protected it from all sides, placed it right in the middle of the body, not too low, not too high, just in the middle, so it's protected. And yet so central, so vital, that every single part of the body is reached by the heart. And at the same time, everything is reconnected back to the heart with the arteries and the veins. So in a similar way, in the spiritual sense, the heart is in charge of the body, both physically and spiritually. And so if the shaitan, the iblis and his armies try to penetrate, then the heart relies upon its limbs and organs and his soldiers and his troops to stand their position and hold their fort, and not allow the heart to become damaged and affected. Hence they inquire about the most exceptional soldier he has and the closest one to the king. It is, replied, the soul. So the opposing king will command his troops to force entry through it and its desires, and take particular notice of the things it loves. Then use that and arouse the desire for it in him before carving this beloved feature into it, whether he is asleep or awake. If it feels reassured and at ease, release the sharp hooks and traps of desires, then pull him in with them. If the desires become engrossed in the heart, they become assistants for you against him. Okay? And now you have conquered the channels of the eyes, the ear and the tongue, the mouth and the hands and the legs. So remain stationed at these posts as much as possible, meaning guard your eyes, guard your ears, guard your hands, guard your feet. Whenever you enter through them into the heart, he becomes a victim or a captive or riddled with injuries. So do not vacate these channels and do not allow another brigade to enter through them into the heart in order to remove you and your command over them. However, if you are defeated, then work tirelessly to weaken the other brigade from even reaching the heart, so that even if it does reach the heart, it will be too weak to have an effect. Meaning, try to push back any of the desires. And even if you are suffering from a desire of the eye, desire of the ear, desire of the chastity, desire of the hand and feet, then push it back. Push back against it. Run from the desire. Run from that shahwa. Run from that shubha. So that even if it eventually reaches your heart, it's not so powerful that it changes your heart permanently. It's a small mark, small effect, which you can recover from. If a person then allows their heart and their mind and their soul to become tainted, just opens himself up to desires. Have you seen the one that has taken his Lord as his desires? He's opened himself, an open book to all desires. Liberal, open, come, whatever desire. He is nothing but a foolish victim waiting to be attacked by the hyenas and the demons and the devils of Shaytaan. Don't think it's just a safe space. You are not safe. We are not safe in this dunya until we have reached our akhirah. وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. No one is safe. Even the salihin are not safe. Nobody, no awliya are even safe from the effects and the desires which are pushed forward, which are exacerbated by the shaitan and his troops. So we have to remain precautious all the time. And that is why from the most dangerous diseases of the heart is ghafla, unaware. Allah has given us the ability to control our body and our minds. Allah has given us the will. We can choose to open our eyes or close it. It's literally up to us. I can choose to leave my ears open or close it. I can choose to reach or not. If I need, I can slap my hand if I need to. I can choose to walk or sit, lie down or retreat. These are literally my choices. These are my choices. I'm in charge. If you then say no, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to open my eyes, open my ears, open my heart, open my hands and my feet to all of the desires, then you're a fool. We are fools for that. We can blame nobody except ourselves. This is one of the most profound examples of a scenario in which we do this is when we recklessly watch whatever's on our screens. Because you're sat on your sofa, your eyes are consuming, ears are consuming, your whole body is consuming, and then you think, oh man, I feel lazy for Fajr. Ah man, I have this shahwa. Ah man, I feel this enticement. Ah man, this sin looks so cool, seems so appealing. How did that happen? Because you allow for yourself to sit there being brainwashed for hours. What's the surprise now? You allowed yourself to be sat there, programmed, coded into the shaitanic system, into the shaitanic matrix. So therefore, we have to be overly precautious. And when it comes to precaution in matters of spiritual safety, there is no such thing as OCD, as long as it's within Sharia. So for example, someone says, you know what, I am not going to walk on a particular street at a particular time of the day or the weekend because I feel as though this will harm my spirituality and I know that this will be fitna for me. Then this is a precaution that he's taking. If, like, for example, will you go out there in the middle of London at 2 a.m. with an expensive watch in your hand and a bunch of cash in your hands? You would not, because you'd be like, you know what, I'm going to get robbed. They might even cut your hand off. Because it's not safe. London is not safe. Okay? They even allow genocide leaders to come and have meetings with the leaders. Right? With the ministers. So it's not safe at all. In such a place, you'll not allow for yourself to be openly walking around when you're in danger. In a similar way, if someone knows that this is a spiritual danger for me to be in this place at this time, in this way, and you are precautious to avoid, then you are intelligent. You're not foolish. You're not OCD. You're intelligent. You're precautious. Furthermore, we need to know our level of iman and taqwa. Some of our levels of iman and taqwa are like a child, vulnerable. You would not allow your child to even cross the road alone, would you? Some of our iman is like that. It's very vulnerable and small. It needs to be defended and nurtured. Others, mashallah, they're very mature in their iman and their taqwa. So what may become a fitna that collapses someone in their iman may not be as effective or as dangerous to another person who's higher in their spirituality, but let that not be a reason to become fooled, because even the most pious of people, if they expose themselves to disease after disease after disease after disease, they will also fall. Does that make sense? Someone's got really strong immunity. Maybe the first attack of the flu is not going to affect them. The first bacteria is not going to affect them. But if they sat there, allowing for the flu and the bacteria affect them, if they sat themselves in a lab where it's just exposed to all of the, they will fall. They will fall. Does that make sense? So therefore, we have to be overly protective and precautious over our limbs, our body parts, which are vulnerable to the troops and the armies of Shaytaan, which are trying to distract us and to misguide us. The devil's in the eye. How does the devil work with the eye? Okay, if you manage to overpower these stations, then ensure that the eye is not used for contemplation and reflection, and instead make it a means of pleasure and idleness. This is how the devil works with the eye. If you manage to overpower the station, this is the devil's intention. If he manages to overpower these stations of the body, then ensure that the eye is not used for contemplation and reflection. Instead, the devil is trying to make it a means of pleasure and idleness. If he takes a look of reflection, then he corrupts it, causing him to glimpse into heedlessness and desires, because they are closer to him, more attached to his soul, and easier for him. So a person goes, I'm going to go and observe the mountains and the seas and the lakes, so I can say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. You go there with a good intention, but then you are distracted by a shahwa. Instead of looking at the mountains, you're looking at other things. Instead of looking at the sea and the ocean and the lake, you're looking at other things which distract you. Okay, so this is the attempt of Shaytaan to even destroy positive intentions, positive efforts. There you have it, the channel of the eye. For indeed, I have not corrupted the son of Adam with anything as effective as the eye. Nothing is as dangerous as Banu Adam for Banu Adam than the eye. And from there you shall gain your objective, because I have not corrupted the son of Adam with anything as powerful as a sight. I plant the seed of desires into his heart through it. Image goes in, reflects, back of your eye, safe, and it's transported straight into the brain, into the heart, and those are the center points. It's a virus. What happens when you plant a virus into the main system, the main hardware, the main frame? Everything is affected, right? SubhanAllah, and that's how we are, okay? I plant the seed of desires into his heart through it, and then irrigate it with false hope. So you look at wrong, and then he irrigates with false hope. Then I continue to promise him and allure him to false hopes and strengthen his resolve in that regard and lead him with the reins of whims and desires until he becomes completely detached from being sin-free. That's Shaytan's way of dealing with the eyes. He strikes, like the hadith says, "An-nadhra sahmun min siham iblis." The eyesight, just like you throw your glance, Iblis throws his arrows through it. And the virus reaches the mind and the heart, and its poison spreads throughout the body, and everything is affected. The whole of your spirituality is affected by it. It's a war going on daily. Daily there is wars going on. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. And this is about people who are evil, and evil fighting against good, and good fighting back against evil. In a similar way, in our spirituality, we are trying to protect our spirituality, and Shaytan and his junood are trying to destroy our spirituality. Do not neglect this entry point. Reap corruption as much as you can and make it insignificant to him. This is the devil saying. Say to him, what does one look that leads you to remember your Creator, or reflection, or the reflection over the glory of his creation and his beauty that has been created for you to derive the evidence of his existence even amount to? What's the point? You're going to go and see, what's the big deal? Oh yeah, the stars, the moon, the sun, yeah, the trees and the mountains. Yeah, it's alright, it's just natural incidents, it's just natural evolution, it's the tectonic movements of the plates that have collided and the continents moved, and as they crashed together, the mountains were created. It's not a big deal. And yet, you might try to deny and denounce it, but your eyes cannot but help be impressed by it. You look at it, and even if you are a disbeliever, I'm sure you want to say somewhere in your mind, Subhanallah, but you don't know the words to say it. So we say Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar. Allah did not create your eyes for no reason, and He did not create this image for it to be hidden from your sight. If you manage to triumph over someone of little knowledge and immoral mind, say to him, this image is an appearance of Allah and a manifestation. So this is Iblis trying to talk to his troops, saying, if you find someone with a weak iman, okay, and they seem to be impressed by these things, then instead of saying that this is a sign to Allah, say that maybe this is God, and that's why you have some people worshipping idols and the sun and the moon and the stars. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَآَ كَوْكَبًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Okay? Subhanallah. Shaytan doesn't give up. You know, he makes us see the signs of Allah and makes us forget that it's pointing towards Allah. Everyone, human beings naturally, they like to see naturally beautiful stuff. They're impressed. This guy, David Attenborough, Mr. Sir David Attenborough, so much he, contemplated over creation, and he made series after series. But he's not a believer. May Allah guide him to Islam. Did he pass away? No, I think he's very old, but he's still around. May Allah guide him. Because after seeing all that nature, bro, if you're not going to believe, then you need to pattern up Sir David Attenborough, because you are someone that should have seen the signs of Allah and taken heed and accepted Allah's signs to be pointing towards Him. Of course. It's like, for example, a person, and we've said this before, a person, he puts the GPS on to go take him to Birmingham. The GPS says, please go straight for 100 miles or 200 meters and then take a left. Please bear right on the A1 and then head into the M1. Instead of this guy now following the directions, like, wow, this GPS is so impressive. I think this is it. I'm just going to look at this instead of going to Birmingham. Is that a foolish person or an intelligent person? Someone sees a sign, M6, take a left, go to Birmingham, or Manchester, wherever you're going to go to. Instead of now going to Birmingham, wow, look at this sign, it's glittery, it's glowy, it shines in the dark, amazing. Maybe I need to worship this sign. He's not, that's not intelligent. This is how the mountains are, the seas are, the sun is, the moon is. These are signs of Allah, pointing, saying, look, there is a creator. Just look. And that is what Allah says, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. There are signs in it for those who have hearts, clear hearts, open hearts. Right? If your heart is clear, open like glass and shiny, then you see through the truth, to the truth. But if your heart is dirty with sins and shahawat and shubuhat and brainwashing and misinformation, then even though there is a heart of glass, it's corrupted with sins. So he looks through, but it's so obscure because of the dirt of the sins. He sees, he tries to see, but he can't see. And hidayah is not there for that person. So that has to be cleansed with tawheed, with la ilaha illallah, with ridding a person from shirk and bid'ah. This would open their eyesight to see towards the hidayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Then the devil and the ear. Thereafter, the devil tells his minions, block the channel of the ear from being penetrated or having anything destroy your efforts. Meaning, make sure you keep on giving waswas so that your efforts of the ears don't go to waste. Strive in only allowing it to hear falsehood. The devil tells his minions that make sure the ears only hear wrong, sins, music, haram, this, that, shahwat, shubuhat, false arguments, genocidal talking points. Make them become compelling and convincing. There are even many Muslims that are falling for some of these core talking points. But what if this and what if that? But, no, not necessarily political. There are actually people saying stuff like, oh, what's the point? Why don't they just give up and go away? Doesn't that make sense? Ya la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's because the talking point of the falsehood is so persisting, so adamant. It's like brainwashing. And for some people, the truth is so painful, they'd rather find happiness and temporary joy in the falsehood. Does that make sense? These are psychological things. Sometimes when the truth is so hard to bear, people would rather just accept the false because it just makes things make a bit more sense. Like right now, all of our conscience is disrupted. Like people talk about human rights, people talk about beauty, people talk about peace and stability, people talk about conscience and rights and wrong. Where is it? If you can slaughter children like that and literally obliterate into pieces, smithereens, people in a hospital, taking shelter in a tent, what is human rights? What is conscience? What is normality? What is right? What is wrong? It's all a facade. It's all a joke. Our conscience at the core is corrupted and disrupted by all of this. Right? And so now this is difficult to bear, to see it. It's difficult sometimes for people to accept that these people are innocent because the opposition keeps on saying, no, they're actually bad guys. And this is the effect, effect of the war is as such. It's normal, it's fine, it's okay, go back to sleep, it's okay. Because it's normal, it happened in World War I, World War II. And furthermore, it's not even us to blame, it's them to blame. Yeah, go back, it's fine, you trust us, look at us, we wear nice suits, we speak your language, we look presentable. We're the real guys, forget them, just go to sleep. So now, the person who's trying to keep up and say, no, these people are innocent, and you're the wrong, you fight back against all of this propaganda. But at some point, for some people, it's like, you know what, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm just going to believe what they say because it makes more sense. It's easier to accept. So people slip and they cave. But no, just because you cave and you slip and you fall to your desires doesn't mean it's the truth. Okay, we think, oh, is it too much of a task for me to accept the truth that they are victims and to continue to support them? How do you think they feel? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. May Allah keep us steadfast. Allahumma ameen. So strive in only allowing it to hear falsehood. That's what the devil tells the ears, or his minions that are patrolling the ears. As it is easy on the soul and it beautifies it. Falsehood is beautified to the soul. Okay? What's the need to follow all these rules and regulations, man? YOLO, do what you want. Live. You only live once. What's the proof that you're going to come back to life? What's the proof that there is? It's nothing, man. Forget these guys. Select the sweetness and phrases of the most mesmerizing to the mind, then merge it well with all of the soul's whims and desires. Input an evil word. If you see that he is responsive to it, then add the rest. Test. Minions of Shaytaan and the devils, test your tolerance. The more tolerant you are, it will take you a step further toward disbelief. Every time you realize he deems something to be good, bombard him with it. Beware that, someone asking me, like, they say, like, these, the ones who are causing the genocide, the Israeli soldiers and so on, right? Why doesn't these magicians do magic to them? Someone said to them. Someone said, why don't the magicians, the sahir, do sihr to them? I said, you do realize that Shaytaan loves those guys. So even if there was sihr, it would be in their favor. Because sihr is from Shaytaan. Sihr works with assistance from Shaytaan. So even if someone tried to do sihr upon them, Shaytaan would favor them over the sihr against them. Furthermore, a lot of these child killings are forms of sacrifice from their part, on their part, to the devil, to the Shaytaan, to please the devils. So they're steps ahead. They're higher in the game of devil worship. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ وَلَكِنَّا نَحْنُ حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. Allah is enough for us. Okay? وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. Nothing and no one can be harmed except by the permission of Allah. It's all a deception. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. It's all a deception and a delusion of power. It's just an imagery of power, but it's all false and fake images. Beware that any speech from the speech of Allah or the speech of the messenger of the speech, or the speech of any sincere advisor should enter through the channel. That's what the Shaytaan is telling its minions. But if you are overpowered in this regard and it does not happen to enter, and it does happen to enter, dwell in between it and the correct understanding, or the opportunity to reflect or contemplate upon it, or to make an admonition from it. So the devil tells his minions, even if this guy managed to listen to a good nasiha, listen a good talk, then stop him further, stop him another way, try to make him misunderstand it. Or allow him to understand it, but then make him proud about it and arrogant about it, and become another form of fitna upon himself by it. This is accomplished either by entering something conflicting or by portraying it as intimidating or daunting, and that it is a matter that will dwell between a person and their soul, or that you are unable to attain, and it is a heavy burden you cannot underestimate, or something similar to this. Or by making it seem unworthy, whilst one should occupy themselves with something seemingly more important and highly regarded amongst the people, more valuable to them, more distinctive with a higher volume of customers. As for the truth, it is outdated and discarded and so on. So you get the point. This is how the Shaytaan works with the ears. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوًّا شَيَاطِينَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ يُوحِي بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ زُخْرُفَ الْقَوْلِ غُرُورًا. And that's why I've made for every prophet an enemy, devil from the mankind and jinn, inspiring to one another decorative speech and delusion. Allah named it decorative speech, yet it is falsehood. But the proponent of the speech decorates and beautifies it as much as they can before injecting it into the deluded person's ear waves. Thus he is deceived. What is evidently clear here is that the devil has positioned himself at the entry point of the ear, whereby he inserts anything that harms and does not benefit the person, and obstructs anything benefits and beneficial from entering. However, if something beneficial does enter against the devil's will, he endeavors to corrupt even the truth that has entered, or come in between him and his heart and being affected by it, and so on. Then there is also how the devil works with the tongue, and this is a longer chapter which we need to read, inshallah. Right? How many pages is that page? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ready to read? Bismillah.
Bismillah. The devil and the tongue. He goes on to say, gather against the tongue now, indeed he is the strongest channel and directly situated facing the king. So make the speech that harms him become fluent upon it and prevent it from uttering any remembrance of Allah, or any quest for forgiveness by Allah, or recitation of the Quran, or delivering any sincere advice to his servants, or dispensing beneficial knowledge. You have been assigned with the two huge responsibilities pertaining to the tongue. Do not be concerned with which one you execute. Either one is good enough. The first, speaking falsehood, as uttering falsehood is considered one of your brethren and from your strongest allies and helpers. The second, being silent about the truth, as the one who is silent about the truth is also one of your brethren, but he is without a tongue. As for the one, he is one of your brethren, but possesses a tongue. Perhaps your second brother is even more advantageous to you. Have you not heard the speech of the advisor? The one who speaks falsehood is a devil that speaks, whilst the one silent about the truth is a devil without a tongue. Remain positioned at the entry point of this channel, lest he speaks the truth or withhold from any falsehood. Beautify speaking falsehood to him by any means, and instill a fear into him, or to ever speak the truth by any means.
The devil saying to the shaitan that this is what you do with the tongue, how you corrupt a person through the tongue.
Know, my children, that the opening of the tongue is the channel I used to destroy the offspring of Adam alayhi salam, and I dragged them with me on their faces into the hellfire. How numerous are my victims that have fallen into their demise, and how numerous are their captives and casualties that I have taken. I counsel you with a piece of advice, so memorize it well. If one of you pronounces something upon the tongue of his brethren from the humankind, whilst the other awaits on the tongue of the listener, allowing the listening human to commend it, acclaim it, and become amazed by it, thus requesting that his brother repeats it. Be aids to one another by any means against mankind, and invade them from every door, and lay in wait for them on every path. Have you not heard my oath that I made in the name of their Lord, wherein I said,
قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين.
Because you have put me in error, I will surely sit and wait for them on your straight path.
The vow of Iblis, I will block them every straight path because you have ejected me from Jannah.
Then I'll come to them from before them, and on their right and on their left, and you will not find most of them grateful. Do you not see that I have sat and awaited on every path for the offspring of Adam alayhi salam, peace be upon him? He does not escape one route except that he finds me on another until I fulfill my need, or at least some of it. But their Prophet, on whom be peace, has warned them of this. He said to them, the devil sits along the path of the son of Adam alayhi salam. He sits awaiting for them. He sits in the path of Islam, and he says, will you accept Islam and leave your religion and the religion of your forefathers? But he disobeys him and accepts Islam. Then he sits waiting for them on the path to Islamic emigration, and he says, will you emigrate and leave behind your land and sky? But he disobeys him and emigrates. Then he sits waiting for him on the path of jihad, and he says, will you fight in jihad when it will cost you your life and your wealth? You will fight and be killed, and your wife will remarry, and your wealth will be divided. But he disobeys him.
In the context of Islamic countries, right? Because these words are easily misunderstood, misinterpreted, and misused. Okay, for example, this when it comes to military combat, there has to be organized military. Like for example, right now today, Saudi Arabia has its country. For example, Qatar has its country. Pakistan has its own country. Egypt has its own military. This is the context of the usage of these words. It's not for those who hijack these words to make Islam look bad or otherwise. That's very important clarification, because sometimes people misunderstand these words and they become confused, or they become they try to put others into problems. Go ahead.
But the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on whom be peace, said, whoever does that, then he has a right from Allah, the mighty and sublime, that he will admit him into paradise. Just like so, sit and wait for them on every path to good. If any one of them wishes to donate in charity, sit there and whisper to them, will you spend their money in charity, and become like the one who is asking. On the same level, have you not heard what I conveyed upon the tongue of a man who was asked for charity? He said, it is our wealth. If we would give it to you, we become like you. Sit and wait for him on the path to the Hajj pilgrimage, and say to him, it is a perilous and difficult journey, the one making it exposed to death and a loss of wealth, and sit in the path of all good actions by driving them away from it, and mention the difficulties and obstacles. Then sit on the path of sins and decorate them to the offsprings of Adam alayhi salam, on whom be peace, and beautify them in their hearts, and make women the strongest aid for them in this course. Enter the channels through the ploy of women, they are an excellent aid to you. Thereafter, sit by the hands and legs and prevent them from ever holding on to anything that will harm you or walking towards in its cause. Know that the biggest aid for you in maintaining control of these channels is reconciling with the soul that commands with evil. Help it, use it to your advantage, give it assistance and gain assistance from it, and be the one with it in your war against the reassured righteous soul, and who work tirelessly to break it and defeat its resolve. And there is no way to do this other than cutting its supply. Thus, if its supply is cut and the supply of the soul that commands with evil is strengthened, it becomes to comply with its aid to draw the heart out of its fortress, isolate it from its kingdom, and replace it with this soul. It will not enjoy anything other than what your desire and love, and it will not present anything that you detest, and will not oppose you in anything you direct it to. In fact, if you direct it to something, it hastens to it. However, if you send
Shaytaan talking to its minions, okay? Just so that someone's tuning in. What's going on? Al-Ummah's gone wrong today.
this sounds satanic.
Shaytaan advising his minions and his small shaytaan on how to distract us regarding using our tongue and using our organs in order to obey Allah. The devil and the tongue, and how the devil works against us by using the tongue. Go ahead.
However, if you sense that the heart is challenging for its kingdom and you wish to be relieved of this, enact a marital contract between it and the soul, then decorate it, beautify it, and present it in the best image a bride can appear in. Then say to it, taste the pleasure of this bride, just like you tasted the trials of war and felt the injuries and combat strikes. Now compare between these pleasures of reconciliation with the bitterness of that war. Renounce the war because it is not a one-day event. Rather, it is a war connected to death, and you become weak as a consequence of an ongoing war. Now, my children, seek assistance from two mighty soldiers that shall never be defeated alongside. One of them is heedlessness. Make the heart of the offsprings of Adam alayhi salam, on whom be peace, heedless of Allah and the hereafter in any way. You do not possess anything more comprehensive in achieving your aim than that. Indeed, if the heart becomes heedless of Allah, you gain firmly a fixed position over it. The second is the desires. Adorn them in their hearts and decorate them to their sights. Assume the onslaught with these two soldiers, as you will not have a more comprehensive tool against the offspring of Adam alayhi salam, on whom be peace, than these two. In addition, reinforce this heedlessness with whims and desires, and reinforce the whims and desires with heedlessness. Now pair up two heedless people and use them against the thoughtful and conscious one. As one cannot defeat five because the two heedless people have two devils by their side, that is four in total, and the devil of the thoughtful one is also with them. Furthermore, if you see a group of people congregating for something that brings harm to you, such as the remembrance of Allah, or to study His commands and prohibitions and His religion, while you are unable to separate them, then use this assistance of their kind, the human, draw them close to them and cause chaos in their ranks that give away separation. In summary, prepare adequately for every situation. Enter to the offspring of the children of Adam alayhi salam, on whom be peace, from the gateway of their desires and ill intent, then help them in achieving them, and be efficient assisters in His pursuit of attaining them. If they have the command from Allah to preserve with patience, endure it, and remain guarded in front of these channels, then you must also persevere, and you must endure, and you must hold your guard in front of these channels, and grasp the opportunity at times of desires and anger, as you will not be able to hunt down the offsprings of Adam alayhi salam, on whom be peace, at a better opportunity. You must also know that some of them have a weakness to the power of whims and desires, while the influence of anger is weaker to him in this regard. So tread to the method of desires and leave the method of anger.
So basically, Shaytaan and his army, they analyze and study the person, and they give them tailor-fit fitna. Tailor-fit, bespoke, accurately curated and designed for the individual fitna. Some people are more prone to anger, while others are more calm, but more prone to other desires. Maybe addictions, maybe this, maybe that. So whichever is a weakness, because Shaytaan runs in your veins and knows you from your habits, you'll be able to deploy those desires more than others. So we are very weak in that regard, and yet we are powerful by the remembrance of Allah, by being on the side of Allah, by being the fortress of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go on.
Some of them are weaker to the emotion of anger, but do not forsake the avenue of desires at the same time, and do not undermine its channel, because the one who cannot control themselves at a moment of anger will not control themselves when faced with desires. So couple between his anger and his desires, and merge the two, and entice him towards his desires from the gateway of anger, and entice him to anger from the gateway of desires. It is also imperative that you know that you do not have a more comprehensive weapon than these two aforementioned weapons. I caused the expulsion of Adam and Hawa, on whom be peace on both of them, from the heavens through desires, and I instilled the enmity amongst their offspring using anger. And through that I split their ties of kinship, spilt their blood, through which one of their children, Adam, on whom be peace, killed his brother. Know that anger is a live coal in the heart of the son of Adam, on whom be peace, and the desire is a fire that rages from his heart. This fire can only be extinguished with water, prayer, remembrance of Allah, and takbir. So be ever so cautious to allowing the offspring of Adam alayhi salam, on whom be peace, to approach the ablution or the prayer at his time of anger and desires, even though that is the command of their Prophet, on whom be peace to them. And he said, indeed, anger is a live coal in the heart of the offspring of Adam alayhi salam. Have you not seen the way his eyes become red and his cheeks inflate? Thus, whoever senses this should perform ablution. He also said to them, fire is extinguished with water.
So do you see, Shaytaan is very much aware of our entire Sharia. Like they say, there is no bigger knowledgeable individual about our deen than Shaytaan. Shaytaan knows our religion, but he uses it against us. He uses it to disobey Allah. So that's why he's aware of the hadiths and aware of the Quranic ayat and aware of this and aware of that. So when he advises his soldiers and minions, he gives them precise advice. Do this, do that, do this, do that. This is basically staff retreat, staff training for Iblis and his minions. This is a lecture that's happening. A sermon, and the main workshop is delivering them on how to misguide Adam.
Allah has instructed them to gain their assistance from patience and prayer, so obstruct them from it and make them forget it, and gain assistance from their own desires and anger. The most far-reaching weaponry you have against them is the most damaging, heedlessness and obeying desires. On the other hand, the most powerful weaponry against you and their sturdiest fortress is the remembrance of Allah and the disobedience of their own desires. Thus, if you come across a
Remembrance of Allah and disobedience of your desires. When we are able to overcome our own desires, your desire says this, you say no. Desire says speak, we say wait. Desire says pray at home, don't go Jama'ah, you say no, go Jama'ah. Desire says look, you say no, I'm not. When you're able to control your desires and remember Allah often, you're sorted. You're on a good track. You're doing really well. You're protected. Go ahead.
Thus, if you come across a man who opposes sinful desires, flee from his shadow and do not go near him. The intended meaning here is that sins and any acts of disobedience are a weapon and a reinforcement that his servant affords his own enemy with and assists them against his own self with. So they combat him with his own weaponry, and he aligns with them against himself. This is the pinnacle of all ignorance. The enemies do not reach the ignorant one as much as the ignorant reaches himself. From the most peculiar things is the servant endeavors with all his efforts to disgrace himself while he claims that he is honoring it. He endeavors to deny it with the highest and the most noblest gains while he claims to be working towards its ultimate prosperity. He exerts all efforts to debase, belittle and conceal his soul from any good while he claims that he is uplifting and enhancing it. Some of the pious predecessors, the Salaf al-Salih, would mention in their sermons how many disgrace themselves whilst he claims he is honoring it. How many humiliate themselves while they claim they are dignifying it. How many belittle themselves while claiming to enhance it. How many waste themselves while claiming that they are concerned with its rights. It is sufficient as ignorance that someone aligns themselves with their enemy against themselves. Through his action, he reaches a point that his enemy could not reach alone. Allah's aid is sought.
Barakallah fiqh. This is an amazing, interesting chapter and a few chapters. But the point is, this is how Shaytaan uses our own senses, our own needs and our desires against us, and how we should be overly precautious and conscious about it. The next chapter is about how a Shaytaan tries to, through sins, make us forget ourselves and who we are. But we'll stop here because it's a long chapter, inshallah. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, Bismillah. Bismillah.
The first question is, like, do we have any, in Ittiqad, in Creed, we learned that the angels protect us, right, from all forces of evil, right? But is there such a thing, similar to the biblical narrative, or the somewhat made up biblical narrative, that the forces of good, the angels, they are war with, let's say, the Shaytaan, the jinns of major fire? Is there such a thing like that?
We learn this from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that every person is paired with a good advisor and a qareen, an evil advisor from the Shaytaan trying to advise him towards sin. But it's up to you which one you give preference to, and whichever one you give preference to becomes more emboldened. So we're not just mere victims here, we are contributors in this competition. It's up to us who we listen to, and the one you listen to more, the stronger you make it, and the weaker the opposition becomes. If someone is always giving preference to his angel, which is advising him to do good, then that angel becomes stronger for him, and that voice becomes more stronger for him, and he himself is more used to obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the good advice. But if you give preference to your shaitan, then you embolden it, and you think, you know what, I can control this person, I can go further. So this is also from the Sunnah that we do learn that there is advisors on both sides, and it's up to us which side we give preference to. What's the second question?
The second question is, you know, when I was reading the last page of that previous chapter we're going through, and it mentioned some of the Salaf, what they mentioned in their sermons about how people may disgrace themselves and stuff. Is it correct to mention, because people have this monolithic image that the Salaf, everyone will go along, but some of them also. Like,
so what was the question? What was the first part of what you said about the Salaf?
So you know, what do you call it? People have this imagery that everyone from the Salaf, from the past, all got to know.
No, Salaf were human beings.
But was it true that some of them were affected with, let's say, with jealousy and envy?
The Salaf were human beings like us. There is no one immune from mistakes and errors except for the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So the Salaf al-Salihin, you know when we say the Salaf were like this, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, because the Salaf are different. Yes, of course, they all agreed upon core values, most important aspects of our aqeedah, of our iman, of our Islam. But for you to assume that every single Salaf lived the same way, did the same thing, had the same strengths and weaknesses, it's naive, because the Salaf were human beings. Like the Tabi'in and the Sahaba were, and they were human beings. And the ma'ruf qa'idah, we know that there is no one without error except for the Anbiya and our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Is it correct to say that people of knowledge can have envy come in with them?
Of course, absolutely, of course you can. In fact, it's commonly known that the people who are near peers to each other when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to Quran, Qira'ah, when it comes to this, there is the chance of envy and jealousy is even more.
But why is that the case?
Because they're all.
Yeah,
well, not everyone. If that wasn't the case, then there will be no test. So it's ibtila and imtihan for the pious to even avoid this. That we need to get this assumption out of our minds that the salihin and the pious are somehow exempt. They are as much struggling in their own ways like the rest of us. And that's why when someone big, for example, someone big celebrity, someone falls and does a sin, you think, oh, but how come? Hold on, that's not to question our faith and our iman and our tradition. It's to say, he's a human and he failed. And he should do better. Does that make sense? So, human beings, they're on different levels, and we need to keep on endeavoring and striving and following the good of our Salaf al-Salihin, and not the zallat and the mistakes and the errors that anyone as a human being may have had here and there, right? Again, there is no ma'soom except for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Any other questions?
Why do even people worship the devil? Like, I don't get like this. The same person that's gonna get you help, like he's doing.
Well, they have become convinced and become deluded to assume and prefer the short and the temporary over the long and the permanent, because they think there's no afterlife. First, the shaitan convinces them that there is no qiyamah, there is no judgment, there is no life after death. And that is why the Quran is so adamant to tell us there is a life after death. There is a life. Maliki yawmid deen. There is a life after death. Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wal yawmil akhir. We have to believe it. Because once you take life after death away, anything is possible. So when someone doesn't believe in the life after death, then they see, hold on, I can become a bit more advantaged by doing this tactic or that tactic. And there's no accountability. I'm not going to be judged. I'm not going to go to Jahannam. Then they'll do whatever is possible. Even if it means worshipping the devil, if that's going to help them to get a step further, in their career, in their job, in their life, in their love, whatever it is, they'll do it. Because they're not scared of an afterlife, they're not scared of a creator, they're not scared of repercussions and consequences. Does that make sense?
What the devil can, what can he give you? Like, he can't give you nothing. It's not like.
Sometimes the devil does assist his servants with small advantages. For example, the sahir and the kahin. The sahir and the kahin, the soothsayer tries to assume that he knows certain things about the future or the unseen. And the sahir tries to take, basically control other human beings with his powers. So the way it works is, say for example, if someone does sihr to someone else, the person who's doing the magic has a contract with the devil. How they get into the relationship, I don't know, but it's nasty work. They do the lowest of the low sins. They fill themselves up with filth and dirt and all sorts until the devil has, and they have these chantations and this and that to try and communicate. The devil says, if you are able to do such and such, I will listen. I will give you something. I'll fulfill a particular demand from you. So now someone comes to the sahir and says, listen, I'm going to give you £1,000 if you force this woman to fall in love with me. Does that make sense to you? So the guy says, okay, give me £1,000 and I'm going to basically get one of my shaytans, my jinns, to go and whisper to this woman that you love this guy, you love this guy, you need this guy, you need this guy. But it's all a contract, it's fake. And the opposite is also true. I will break a marriage. So you go to the woman and say, your husband is bad, he's rubbish, he doesn't do anything for you, he's ugly, he's this, he's that. Leave him. You'll be better off without him. You need freedom. You need to have a divorce party, and so on. But this is how they benefit. It's dunyawi benefits, dark, devilish benefits. It's not real benefit. It's in fact a further delusion, and it's a further downward spiral fall into Jahannam. Because this is kufr, magic is kufr, and listening to Shaytaan is from the biggest of sins. Does that make sense? So people do all sorts for different desires. It's really hard to understand even sometimes, but people do it. Yeah?
There's something like atheists, like, for example, if they don't believe like afterlife, they just straight up say like.
Yeah, so a lot of these people are atheists. A lot of these people are doing this, they think they're committing kufr. Does that make sense? That's why. Yes, Akhi, any other questions?
Sure. You know when you mentioned the tailor fitna earlier, so that obviously Shaytaan is kind of like customizing the
Yes,
fitna.
yes.
Did you then also say that if we kind of resist, the more we resist, the weaker the fitna becomes, or is that
Correct.
So is it going to get to the point that the fitna is not going to be fitna anymore?
It's not going to be as strong. The effect is not going to be as strong. Why? Because your immunity is strong. It's about us defending ourselves. If my immunity is strong, if I'm taking all the supplements and natural immunizations, whatever I do, right, then I may walk into a room full of bacteria and disease and I may work out nothing has happened to me because I'm strong. I've strengthened my iman. What are you strong? You've strengthened your immunity. In a similar way, if you're spiritually strong and your immunity is high, meaning you're not ghafil, you're in the constant state of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever a negative thought comes to your mind, you remove it, you do a'udhu billah, you get angry, you say astaghfirullah, a'udhu billah, you sort yourself out, you protect your eyes, and if you fall into a sin of al-eye, you do istighfar and tawbah and you go back to Allah, meaning you have a system in which you have strengthened your immunity spiritually. Then even though there are fitan out there, and the shaitan tries, it becomes smaller for you and weaker for you. Whereas for somebody else it may be very big. It may present to you an opportunity for example, haram. The salih person who is in a high level of spirituality will say astaghfirullah and walk away. Other person will think, because they're not strong and immune with their spirituality, they might think, you know what, I have a chance. I have an empty house. I have a car. I have this. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. So the fitna is there, but the effect is felt differently depending on our level of spirituality. Barakallahu feek. No other questions? سبحانك اللهم اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.